How do you sort out the so-called jargon from real-world practices that work? Do the members of your organization find some business or technology advice utterly confusing? Welcome to Real Talk with Sam Holcman. In this program, we set the record straight, and in terms that business people and technology people can understand. Now, here is your host, Sam Holcman.
Welcome to this edition of Real Talk. I'm Sam Holcman. Thanks for joining me. And this particular broadcast, you're going to be hearing a little bit of sarcasm from me. So I'm going to tell you that up front, because sometimes you just wonder when you read these articles, what have people been thinking prior to this article? And so this article starts off with the following sentence. Quote, "A successful AI initiative is largely determined by the underlying quality of data." You know, I got to call the Nobel Committee. This is a Nobel Prize statement here. Are you kidding me? Well, of course. Since the inception of technology, what you and I have been doing is processing data. You know what we're doing right now with AI? We're processing data. But all of a sudden, in this whole article, there's not even a mention of using large language models, because what people are finding out is the other sarcastic phrase that people use, garbage in, garbage out. Now, in the whole article talks about the technology, not the how-to. How do you get the data right? Because what most organizations have right now, please remember, I said I'm being a little sarcastic here. They have data sludge. You've got a bunch of sludge out there, data sludge. And there's no magical and mystical way to turn that data sludge into a data swamp, into a data warehouse, into a data lake, into a data lake house, or other terms that are out there that have something to do with data because people slap terms on it because that's going to magically and mystically fix things. It is about data analysis, data architecture, not about the technology. And I'm going to continue from this article and not quoting directly anymore, but on some of the things that I just can't believe. Now, here is another statement worthy of a Nobel Prize. You ready? Bad data will always yield bad results. You want to take that to your management? They'll probably tell you at that point, how many days have you been working here, not including tomorrow? Wonderful. The next sentence, though, gave me a little hope. It's important to build an architecture. None of the rest of the article talks about building an architecture. Yes, you have to have, if I can use the phrase, a data architecture, a blueprint, something that gives you an understanding of what this stuff is. Think about a library. If any of you remember in the good old days, there was these physical buildings that had books in them. And remember that? What made the library work? Now, this is not an order of importance, but there's three things. First, the Dewey Decimal System, a neutral classification system that allowed us to build what's the technology term is ontological representations, kinds of things together. That's what an ontology is. And that's what the Dewey Decimal System is. This particular 3.1.6 number, whatever the number is, and I don't have that on the top of my head, anything that has to do with this topic is in this area. Now, that's not enough. Remember I said there's three things. Number two, there was some way for that stuff to get into the library and stay consistent. The phrase that's used is a long-tail search. And we know from the things that are out there that call themselves search engines right now, that's not the case. You type in a phrase in one of these search engines, 3 days later or 2 hours later, you type in that same phrase, you get a whole other set of understandings until you look past, of course, the advertising and then things change as you move forward. Sorry, I'm chuckling here, but sometimes you got to laugh at some of this stuff because nothing in this article tells you how to do this, and I'll get to that in just a little while. Next headline you see, better data equals better AI. That's the third Nobel Prize that we should be awarding to people that are looking at things like this. Please remember the sarcasm. Now, there is something I'm going to quote here that was kind of exciting to me. IDC, it's been around for a long time, did a survey last year, and I'm just going to now quote this particular survey. If you have good data quality and you use AI, from this study, there's a 1.2 times revenue improvement, a 1.5 times operational efficiency improvement, a 1.6 time profit improvement, and a 5 times higher customer retention situation. These are wonderful. What's the problem? The data. How do you make this thing happen? How was this measured is another question, of course, that I have. But that's what we're seeing, and I'll get to that once again in just a little while. Then things started heading south again for me. If some of you know me personally a little bit, you do know that I enjoy wine every once in a while. I really enjoy, sorry if anyone is offended by this, California Cabernets. I have a pretty serious collection of California Cabernets, and I do enjoy them. Now, when I say enjoy them, I don't think I go through, when there's no company around, a bottle a week. So I'm not sitting there at dinner chugging down a bottle by any means. But in this article, really surprised me because it said something like this. This organization is using AI and fixing things through AI. And here's was an example. A wine in this article, they said, is described as spicy, while the accepted term that somebody decided was the accepted term, some AI miracle, of course, the accepted term is peppery. Let me repeat. A wine might be described as spicy, while the accepted term is peppery. Let me tell you something, as somebody that is, I believe, pretty knowledgeable about wine. The answer is no. Peppery is peppery and spicy is spicy. Those are two distinct, different flavors, if I can use that phrase. They are not the same thing. And if some knucklehead AI engine that somebody programmed puts that in there, you're losing the provenance of the data that came in. You can't just ask the AI engine to change it. You can see an if statement, if some of you are familiar with programming. If spicy, change it to peppery. No. Not only is that wrong, it's wrong. The AI engine is making taste decisions because the words, they have some words that they believe are the same. This is scary, ladies and gentlemen. Garbage in, garbage out, and then when you have your own garbage, you're making it worse that's there. On the positive side, again in this article, it states the following. Organizations are doing their own, what they call large language models, rather than public ones. Hooray. You know that I've been talking about this for quite some time. We call them EAI, Enterprise Augmented Information. And I've done a number of broadcasts and a number of webinars on the concept of data, public data, and proprietary data, and best practice data. And I'm not going to repeat all of that in this particular broadcast. But yes, the other term that you're hearing is small language models. We call it EAI, Enterprise Augmented Information. What all that means is the following. Public data is public data. There are no best practices on the internet. There are no best practices in public. Just think about this for just a moment. Would you put your best practices on the internet for other organizations to use? Well, of course not. Why would you think somebody else would do the same thing? Plus, there is study after study after study, and some of this gets a little bit technical, about model decay and model poisoning that goes on. It's so easy to do nowadays to really mess things up. So organizations are recognizing that just like the olden days, there's data and there's processes, and what these AI engines have done lately, which is fantastic, is to address the speed of processing. But the data is still an issue, and it's getting worse. Furthermore, all of us have to recognize public data sets are public data sets. And if your organization is using that or getting stuff from there, just remember, garbage in means garbage worse for you. Okay? You have to protect your proprietary information. You have to protect your best practices. You have to maintain the confidentiality of your best practices and your data. So if we start looking at this once again for a moment, you have to recognize wishing that what I just said isn't true won't make it so. You can wish all you want, and you can continue if you want to use public information. But study after study after study after study is telling you the same thing. Don't do it. Okay, now, here comes the commercial. Notice what I just said. So if you want to tune out, you can tune out. Here's the commercial. We've recognized this. And out of our Enterprise Architecture Center of Excellence EACOE course, we have extracted out of that the data understanding. There's 6 understandings for enterprise architecture: goals, process, data, roles, locations, and events. We've taken out the data portion of our enterprise architecture course, because it contains all those 6 things, and built a one-day masterclass for all of you, hopefully, to take advantage of. The reason for it is because of this surge in this AI stuff. And what we want people to recognize, everything I just mentioned to you isn't going to work. Because what you have to do is to build a data architecture and then move forward based on your vetted data. So please go to EACOE.org, EACOE.org, and you'll see our latest offering. It's been around for a while now, called AI Masterclass Data Modeling. It's a one-day course. End of commercial. Thanks for listening.
Thank you for tuning into Real Talk. Be sure to join your host, Sam Holcman, again for another edition of our program. We'll have more real topics of discussion then.